Okay, shall I start, or do you guys want to wait?
I think that we should wait for around like maybe just 3-4 minutes. I'm setting up my screen a bit.
Cool.
Okay, Pia, I think that we should start.
Okay. So hello everyone. It's good to be back. Welcome back to another week of OpenGuild Community Call, proudly presented by OpenGuild and Polkadot Insider. As an open community connecting Web3 innovators, OpenGuild is dedicated to advancing the Polkadot ecosystem in Southeast Asia. Join us on Discord and X to be a part of our growing community. So, as the blockchain space continues to evolve, one challenge we do face today is mass adoption. And today, our big topic will be about Polkadot Hub and how it is bringing mass adoption to the ecosystem. The Polkadot Hub is a layer 1 blockchain that supports smart contracts and it is EVM compatible. So, this allows anyone to add their own programmable layers to Polkadot. I am excited to learn more about this topic. So, without further ado, let me take you to our speaker today. First up, let's welcome back Tin, our Dev Relation Lead at OpenGuild. And we have our special guest today, Kian. He is the core developer and engineer at Parity Technologies. Hey guys, welcome. Are you all set?
Yeah, all set. Can you hear me well?
I'm excited to learn more about our topic. So Kian, can I hear your voice as well? Kian? So I think we are waiting for Kian. So I'm gonna walk us through our agenda today. So first up, we're gonna have an introduction about Polkadot Hub. Next up, we're gonna have a discussion with Kian as an engineer from the ecosystem about the initiative. The third part, we will talk more about Polkadot Hub and the hot topics these days, Jam. And lastly, we will cover on some issues with UX fragmentation in the blockchain space. So that is going to be our whole agenda today. And Tin will take over the first part. So if you guys ready, I'll leave it to you.
Okay, so I think like I'm gonna get started first until Kian come back. Yeah,
Sure,
or
sure.
I can, yeah. Or you like, okay. So the screen. So about the topic today, we're gonna talk about the Polkadot Hub, pretty much on the Parity engineering lead. Kian. For the presentation today, it's not like a presentation, but it's more like a discussions. So I gonna like leave the part of like this, like introducing about the Polkadot Hub, and also like any like all the initiative or the improvement related to the Polkadot Hub later for Kian. My main purpose for the like initial part of like today community call, gonna like introduce a bit about what we are having here about, and also like why this topic this today community call. Okay, so if you're not familiar with OpenGuild, this is like another introduction again. So OpenGuild is an open community driven by for the web to building like of Polkadot to help the builders get close to the blockchain field. So OpenGuild is like we contribute to the open source project. We learn, we connect like enthusiasts together with a focus on expanding the Polkadot ecosystem. And after 8 months, like, we already like go up to 1,000 builder from zero, and that's an amazing like milestone for all the community members that help us to contribute to the Polkadot ecosystem. Here's like some key moments that we capture for the OpenGuild community activities, like we have in Malaysia, in Philippines, and also like offline workshop in Vietnam and Indonesia. So the reason why we choose this topic as the Polkadot Hub to talk about today is like we currently have a hackathon running. It's called a PolkaVM hackathon, and if you guys are and you want to onboard on finding something to build, network with other engineer, so there is a competition for you. And for the Polkadot Vietnam hackathons, our expectation is like you build the applications for DeFi, PayFi, and also the NFT on Polkadot Hub, like written in Solidity, but like must be deployed on Polkadot Hub. So if you have any question on the hackathon, feel free to left in the general channel of the community. So now we go back to Kian. So Kian, can you hear me? Yeah, I think like we still cannot hear you.
I think you gotta have to push to talk. Are you using like your phone or?
So while we are waiting for Kian until he can he can fix his technical issues. So like Polkadot Hub is basically an asset hub that have Solidity smart contract execution layer on top of it, but it's also like more than that. It's also like have the ability for like Ethereum capability. That like all the RPC API of Ethereum can be called can be also integrated to the Polkadot Hub. But also like there's more than that that I would like that we also like hope like Kian can also help to explain about that. But like if you can learn more about like Polkadot Hub um on like on one article from Rope that is called a Plaza, proposing the Plaza battery included, scalable Polkadot system change. And this one is like the one proposal from Rope that initiate all these wave of Polkadot Hub and like kickstart all of our expectation for the change. Yeah. And while we are waiting for Kian, so if you guys like have any questions for Kian, like feel free to leave in the chat. So like he's a very experienced like engineer of the ecosystem. So if you have any question like any concern about like Polkadot Hub, like why you should build it, or why you should like Polkadot to build on any question about like Polkadot ecosystem, feel free to leave in the chat, and we're gonna help you to answer those questions. And guys, side talk a bit. If you like, haven't subscribed for the Polkadot for OpenGuild YouTube channel, like feel free go to OpenGuild YouTube channel and subscribe for it. You can claim like up to like 100 XP for like just subscribing to the channel. And there's a lot of things like going on in OpenGuild channel right now, especially it's about like the Open Polkadot Bootcamp. This bootcamp are hope to prepare yourself with all the skill, all the necessary knowledge about the Polkadot. So currently, our Open Polkadot Bootcamp gonna cover first like the Solidity, PolkaVM, and then like later we have Polkadot SDK. Hey, Kian, can you hear me?
I think finally it's working. Is it?
Okay, yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah,
Hello?
sorry for this. I think last time I did like some event like this in Discord was like 6 months ago with you guys, and I've uninstalled the app in the meantime. Sorry for the delay. We can get started now. And I had to like, it's kind of weird. I can only talk when I'm holding a particular key, like when I do this like key to push to speak, right?
Yeah, that's a setup of our community that we have to push to talk because like we want to avoid spamming when we're doing the community call. So yeah, anyway, like happy to have you here. Like it's been like 6 months, and you say like half a year since about like Jam, and there's has been a lot of things like going on with the Polkadot ecosystem related to Jam. Like back then, like Jam is still like in theory, but now like after 6 months, we already have like Jam, first milestone the M1 or the one. And now the Polkadot Hub, another initiative, and that's really happy to have you here. So I think like my first question would be like how are you doing like, after 6 months? Like what you right now?
So yeah, first I would start actually with a word of gratitude that I think when we did this event like 6-7 months ago. Maybe it was actually you, I'm not sure who, but they did. I first listened to a presentation called Demystifying Jam, which was great, and it gave me a lot of inspiration. I later wrote a blog post, and I would say actually somewhat subconsciously, I named the blog post the same, like Demystifying Jam, and this blog post was very well received. So I think in retrospect, I realized actually this community call that we did here 6 months ago was the seed for that blog post. So thank you all for arranging that and giving me the opportunity to come and share some thoughts, which eventually led to that well-received blog post. And yeah, in the meantime, yes, please.
Yeah, I mean, like, just want to say, like, really happy to hear that our community can inspire you. I'm actually like also like the guy who hosts the same event in the last 6 months. So yeah, and I already read your article about like demystifying jam. That's an amazing one.
Yeah, thank you, and it's good to hear that it was you, and these community calls have been fruitful for the entire ecosystem. So yeah, and going to your question of like what has been up in the last 6 months, I think actually the main two topics that we're covering is also where my attention has been for the last 6 months and where a lot of the efforts within Parity is going. So Jam is something that is on the protocol specification level, is still being led by Gav and his team to finalize the gray paper. And I think many teams are actually pursuing implementing it. I'm one of them. We're doing like one of the clients, one of the implementation clients with a few of our colleagues at Parity, although we are among the more hobbyist teams perhaps, and I think some of the other teams are way more professional than us. That being said, I think this specification-based implementation for Jam is a great initiative that more people can get involved with, and it's overall a very good idea to have many teams. Like I think now we have up to 20 teams perhaps implementing at least parts of this paper. So even if we end up having 4 or 5 teams having production ready Jam clients, it's very likely that we're going to have up to like 20 teams that would round up to something like 50, 60, 70 engineers who are familiar with parts of this protocol. So this is already like a big step toward decentralizing the knowledge of this protocol. So that's about Jam. And then the second initiative that's been kickstarted in the last 6 months is Plaza. I want to be clear actually first on the naming. Plaza is the keyword for the project, not the final product that we're talking about here. Let's first talk about then what is Project Plaza. Project Plaza is about acknowledging two things. One, that native smart contract, Solidity compatible smart contracts on Polkadot would be immensely useful. So even though multiple parachain teams have support for Solidity compatible smart contracts, given that these parachains live in their own, bubble of their own parachain, and all the interactions that they can do with one another or with the relay chain has to happen asynchronously with XEM or very complicated methods, it would be very useful if some smart contract functionality was native to Polkadot, such that it would reside next to wherever the rest of the dot-related functionality is. So we can imagine at the moment, we have this relay chain that hosts the staking system, the governance system, and the DOT token. So we can imagine that, it would be good if this staking and governance system would have had access to a smart contract module in the same chain, so they can synchronously talk to one another. You can have fancy implementations such as a smart contract controlling a little part of the governance. Many more DAOs can be implemented in this way. Much more flexible DAOs can be implemented. Similarly, on the staking side, we can imagine staking pools that are then operated by a smart contract and follow some on-chain logic. That would be very, very interesting to have. But technologically implementing them in the current architecture of Polkadot would have not been possible. So the first realization of Project Plaza is smart contracts are good wherever the rest of the dot functionality lives. And by dot functionality, I mean the dot token, all the other assets in the ecosystem, staking, governance, identity, and so on. So with this one pillar, we could have just said, okay, let's add, smart contract, Solidity compatible smart contracts to the relay chain. But this is where the second part of the Plaza project comes into play, which is this long-term vision of Polkadot to have a relay chain that is more or less empty and is only doing what it's mainly intended to do, which is host parachains and move all the other functionality to system parachains. I think there is an RFC about this, number 33 from Joe Petrosky, called the minimal relay, which envisioned and ratified the direction that we should move toward having a minimal relay chain that has no functionality in it other than hosting parachains, and all the system functionality, such as staking, governance, and so on, should go to system parachains. Within this RFC, it was not specifically specified whether governance should go into its own parachain, staking should go into its own parachain, and so on and so forth. Finally, bringing this all together, the third realization is that given that Polkadot parachains, including any of its system chains, can scale very well, it's I would say an over-engineering to spin them into separate parachains when they can actually live within one parachain that scales well. And this brought the community to the conclusion that let's put staking, governance, the dot token, and a few other bits of functionality into the existing system parachain called Asset Hub, and then add smart contracts as well in there. So this is the final definition of Project Plaza. Add smart contract functionality to one of the system chains called Asset Hub and move subsystems such as staking and governance from the relay chain to this Asset Hub. So this is like the definition of the project, and we call this project within mostly Parity, but this name has also kind of leaked into the ecosystem quite a lot, Plaza. That being said, the final definition of the product that will be the outcome of this is still something that is being discussed in the community as we speak. So one of the names proposed by one of the very well-known community members, Sean Tabrizi, is to call this sort of the end product of this Polkadot Hub. This is one of the main candidates, and it's likely that they would become the final name that the community will ratify for it. But I want to be clear that the name would almost 100% not be, the name of the product would 100% not be Plaza, or 99% not be Plaza. And it's something that is being discussed, and multiple ecosystem agents are talking about it and discussing it as we speak. I can give this promise that as this name is ratified and concluded by the ecosystem, it's likely we would see a referendum on the Wish for Change track that would formalize it, saying that, the Polkadot ecosystem from now on should call this new product, for example, Polkadot Hub. And then we would also see the Polkadot website, the official Polkadot website, like polkadot.com, updated with a landing page or like some information about this once it is finalized. But again, the fact that this landing page is not there already in polkadot.com. So if you go to polkadot.com right now, there's no mention of Plaza or Hub yet. And the reason for that is that, the conversation about the naming is still ongoing. So this is the status of the naming of the product, but the project is something that we call Plaza. But I like to always call it Project Plaza to specify that, this is the technical name for the implementation. The final feature could be called something different. I mean, for those of you who work on some kind of like engineering within a company and so on, you're probably familiar with this method, the internal code word for a project is something sometimes completely different from the final product's name, I'm sure you can think of some examples there. That's
like,
that. And
oh, sorry about that.
Yes. Yeah, please continue. I'm almost done.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I mean, like, personally, I also like refer the name Plaza more than like Polkadot Hub because I like sound like Plaza Solana, So so somehow like you can like achieve some kinds of like metrics on the Solana, like Plaza Solana. So yeah, like right here, I have the Polkadot roadmap, and sorry for interrupting. Yeah, right here I have and we mentioned about Plaza, and also so there's a lot of things going on right now. But one thing that one of my concern is like about the fragmentation issues, because like in the beginning we already like as like a sharded network have like a very but like now a very powerful the host all these like smart contract to replace like the core functionality of the about these fragmentation issues and this like introductions of Plaza. And do you think like, it's gonna like impact and also cost more resources to build like to follow like two initiative at the time as one time? Like one is the sharded network. Now like, we have like a very powerful highly synchronous network, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, I got like 80% of your question, but I think I got it. In the meantime, I will also move to a different location with a stronger Wi-Fi to make sure I get the subsequent questions a bit better. Let me reiterate your question to make sure I'm answering the right thing first. So your concern is that with move toward Plaza, are we taking a step backwards toward becoming sort of like a synchronous, like centralized synchronous network, such as, for example, the Solana model, versus the parallel multi-chain model that the original Polkadot vision was? Is that the right rephrasing of your question?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's my question.
Yes, so I think it's a very fair question that can also be posed on some level, I think, without going into the details of how Polkadot work, as a fair criticism. But I actually want to say that it is not, and for a very good and nuanced reason. That, consider it this way: if we move more of the functionality of Polkadot as a whole to a single parachain, this single parachain is actually very scalable with parallelization, with multi-chain parallelization as well. So one of the features that I think should be somewhere in this roadmap, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, it's called elastic scaling. You can see it on the Cloud 2.0 box. This is a feature that refers to the ability of a single parachain to occupy the resources of multiple parachains. So right now, other than, I believe, Mythical, perhaps, no team is using this. It's also somewhat, it's kind of like very recently feature complete, so integrating and using it is a little bit more difficult. But this is a feature that we can expect to see finalized in the short term feature. And with this feature, any single parachain, including Asset Hub, is no longer bound to the resources of one parachain. If Asset Hub suddenly gets a lot of throughput, it's not going to experience the same negative situation that would typically happen on a chain like Ethereum, for example, where fees spike, because Asset Hub can suddenly occupy the resources of 3, 5, or be it 10 parachains. So Asset Hub can still, act as if it's 10 different parachains, whereas, at the logical level, it's still a single parachain, but resource-wise, it can have the throughput of a parachain, of 10 parachains, basically. If I am to lean a little bit into the technical details of Polkadot, hopefully it's not too much detail. In Polkadot, we have this concept of cores, as in Polkadot can be abstracted as a large CPU with many cores, around 100 right now, and with Jam around 300. And each of these cores can run one parachain, let's say, with the throughput of 2,000 transactions per second. With elastic scaling, any of these parachains can come and say, one core is not enough for me, I want 10. And then your 2,000 TPS would turn into 20,000 TPS. And this can also scale up and down elastically and automatically. So with such features in mind, and knowing that this is done from like the core engineering side, it just needs some polishing left. This is where I can justify that moving more things to Asset Hub is not a risk of central, like creating a single point of failure or something that would become a throughput in bottleneck. Asset Hub with all of this functionality can scale up, can still scale up and down pretty well, and as if it was multiple different parachains. So yeah, that's my answer to this critique. Again, I think it's a very good question, and it's one that I hope we will demystify for the rest of the broader blockchain space. That Polkadot is not taking a step backward by putting more functionality into a single parachain. It's actually leveraging its core technology, such that it can have the best of both worlds. As in, these subsystems that live in Asset Hub, for example, staking, governance, and smart contracts, can still interact with each other synchronously, as if they are, one Solana chain. But the scalability is orders of magnitude better than what a single chain can deliver.
I see. I see. It's understandable comparing the Plaza with infrastructure Polkadot like might not be a very relative comparisons. So I have a better question. So Plaza and other L1 parachains. So the ecosystem right now is already like have like a lot of like L1 parachain built on it, and even like we have like EVM new to support the Ethereum compatibility layer on top of the parachain. And what do you think like how like Plaza gonna like make impact on these current like L1 parachain? And there is gonna like share the same market with like other L1 parachain that also like support like EVM smart contract.
Yeah, this is a I think it's undeniable that on some level, what Polkadot is doing here, like what the Polkadot ecosystem has decided to do here, is to onboard a use case that has so far sort of been delegated to this individual parachains, or L1s as you call them, and bring it in on itself. In some sense, tapping into a market that so far it was not tapping into. So again, to reiterate, the original Polkadot vision was to not have any smart contract functionality, because we assumed that sovereign parachains having smart contract functionality is enough, and everyone would be happy with it. What the community has seen, though, over the course of I don't know, it has been almost 3 years, I think, that Polkadot and its parachains have been live, that having a smart contract functionality, at least somewhere in the system, that is labeled as Polkadot smart contracts, not parachain A smart contract, not parachain B smart contract, but Polkadot smart contracts, is actually valuable, and people, is something that people want. I don't believe that this is necessarily, an end to any parachain that is providing this service already, but it's an extra competition for them, and it would hopefully push them toward focusing on more unique value propositions and compete with what Polkadot is offering natively. That being said, there was also this earlier argument of synchronicity, in that, end of the day, if smart contract functionality within the Polkadot ecosystem only lives in individual parachains, interactions between these smart contracts and native Polkadot subsystems, such as staking and governance, would always have to be complicated. Whereas in this new model, and by creating this competition, the smart contract functionality provided by Polkadot, natively by Polkadot, so within Asset Hub, would have synchronous connection to staking, governance, and so on. But again, that being said, I don't think this is like, again, it's not like necessarily a beginning of the end for other smart contract parachains. It would just create more competitions for them. We see a similar thing even with exchanges as well. So this parachain that we're talking about, Asset Hub, already also has a DEX, but this DEX has, fairly limited capabilities. It's mainly there to provide means for transaction fee payment in different assets. So there's a bit of liquidity from DOT to USDT and USDC and a few other coins, such that if you want to transact with Asset Hub and you only have USDT, this USDT is swapped with DOT on the fly, and it covers your transaction fee payment. We can see it. We can see a similar story there. Having a DEX on Asset Hub does not mean that any other DeFi parachain, now has to cease to exist, or now it's a problem for them. But it's just enabling one particular use case that was already so far not possible. So yeah, I'll wrap it up here.
Yeah, that's a great answer. How about like the competitions on the language level? Like now, like when we like fully support like the EVM, the Ethereum compatibility. So and on the language level, like do we expect like users gonna like be Solidity, Viber, language or like any language in ecosystem? And if so, then like what's gonna happen with like other WAMs or like smart contract language? Yeah.
So when it comes to language, the smart contract infrastructure being deployed on Asset Hub is using the new Polkadot native virtual machine called PolkaVM. And they have a compiler that takes Solidity code and compile it to this PolkaVM bytecode. Actually, one of the things that is possible on Asset Hub, or will be possible on Asset Hub, is that you would be able to write your contracts on any language that compiles to PolkaVM, which is a lot of languages. So Solidity is one, but not the only one. But this is like a new technology. I don't believe any of the existing parachains that have smart contract functionality have this. And as far as I know, they all focus on Solidity only. And in Asset Hub, we're also starting with Solidity compatibility, but we plan to enable, at least for the tinkerers and for those who entertain themselves, let's say, with other languages. You would be able to write, for example, your smart contract in Rust or in C or in Go, and as long as they can compile to this PolkaVM bytecode, which again, PolkaVM is very universal because it's a modification of RISC-V, which is a very standard instruction set. So you would be able to write contracts in all of these languages as well. That being said, I want to emphasize that the main focus on Asset Hub at the beginning would also be Solidity and generally Ethereum compatibility.
I see. There's a couple of questions that we have in the chat as well. So there's one question. So how EVM equivalent when we are talking about like full equivalent, like all bytecode and recompile or not?
Yes, the goal is full EVM compatibility. We're not, in production yet, so I think very soon we would publicize the demo of this new tech stack on our testnet West End, and you will be able to play around with it. And in the documentation that we would publish for this, there is a list of, let's say, known work in progress shortcomings, where some very few opcodes don't work yet, but the team is confident and is 100% sure that full Ethereum compatibility, so full EVM bytecode compatibility, is within reach, and before we go to mainnet, which would be mid of next year, is achievable. Speaking of this demo, I would also want to use this opportunity to share that I have been setting up a new channel in the official Polkadot Discord chat. I set it up just today, and we haven't populated it particularly yet, but you can keep an eye on it. In the official Polkadot Discord, under technical category, there's a new channel called Solidity Smart Contracts. And I can't say like exactly what day yet, but it could be today, Monday, or at some point next week. We would share sort of the demo of this new tech stack in the official Polkadot Discord server, so programmers and tinkerers can already start playing with it.
Yeah, we're very happy to serve that as well. So like help to distribute the content from that channel. So if you have any information, like please give us, and we're gonna try to bring our community members to that to watch the demo. So there's another question about
happily we'll do that.
Yeah. There's another question about the infrastructure layer. So how does Polkadot Hub or Plaza scale? And there is basically the scale by raising a new instance and running a new node. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I covered, I think, 2 questions before in that asset hub. I mean, let me see. Is this the question exactly saying how does Asset Hub scale? Yes. So the Asset Hub is one parachain, and it would scale with elastic scaling. So the ability to occupy multiple Polkadot cores instead of just one. And actually, it's good to maybe reference a recent experiment that was done on Kusama. So on Kusama recently, there was this spamming happening last week where we achieved, I think, 128,000 transactions per second across around 20 cores of the network. So if you can imagine Asset Hub also scaling to or occupying 10 of these cores, it can reach a throughput of, let's say, I don't know, 50, 60 transactions per second, which is already like almost top of the line industry achievements. So what we can see on mainnet. But yeah, TLDR, the scaling path for Asset Hub would be for Asset Hub to occupy multiple cores and use our own feature called elastic scaling. That being said, I can also talk about a different scaling path. So this is the scaling path for Asset Hub to scale itself and become more performant. So all the contracts residing on Asset Hub would also become more performant as a consequence of this, or they will not experience fee spikes or other issues as the demand goes up. But there is a different path to scale as well for individual contracts. And this is where Polkadot is kind of, I would say, ahead of the curve because, in some sense, Polkadot has first invented the rocket ship and now it's inventing the car. Like a rocket ship can go extremely fast and extremely far, and a car can go, moderately fast and moderately far. So the car in this scenario is a scalable smart contract platform. If at any point this scalable smart contract platform is not enough for a particular team, we have the rocket ship in place. The rocket ship is the parachain product, which is already in production. 50-something teams have already tested and played, used it in production at an enterprise grade over the last 3 years, and we know it works. We know it scales. So if even one day a team with a smart contract on Asset Hub exists, and Asset Hub's native scalability solutions, which is elastic scaling, is not enough for them, they can actually go and migrate to a parachain. And we have some sort of like, let's say, formulas for this as well, and a lot of great ideas to polish this experience, such that it's a seamless upgrade path. And it's something that we would work on after the first iteration of this Project Plaza is complete.
Hope that answered your questions, Daniel. Yeah. So because I know that you're gonna leave soon, so I think I'm gonna ask one of the most important question would be like, what should current and future developers prepare for the upcoming release of Polkadot Hub? So let's say like Polkadot Hub like gonna go to live production tomorrow, and what should builders knows and what should people prepare for that?
Yeah, this is an important one. Okay, let's see what comes to mind. So one is that before this, let's call it Polkadot Hub for now. But again, I think the exact naming is something that will be fleshed out in the future. And I'm imagining you're mostly talking about smart contract part of it, right? Or
Yeah, mainly about the smart contract. I think like for the smart contract developer.
yeah, exactly. So I think we're at an interesting point where, again, as I talked about earlier, for the first time, we can have smart contract developers using Polkadot, deploying on Polkadot, and easily tinkering with Polkadot via smart contract, which is like a very well-known industry standard way of programming blockchains for the first time. And there's a few important messages that I can echo here, and we can spread them even further. One is that I wish to see a lot of focus on functionalities that are unique to Polkadot in this new architecture. So, for example, when this contract stuff goes live, of course, you can redeploy anything that was already working on Ethereum as a Solidity contract on Polkadot as well, and that's great. That's like the baseline features that we're going to provide. But we're also going to provide templates and guides and hopefully inspirational ideas that encourage developers to build unique things that are only possible in Polkadot. So for example, for the first time, you can program smart contracts that interact with these native dot functionalities, such as staking and governance. And this is one area where, for the more advanced developers, I think it would be very interesting to see some traction. So I would support developers to explore these avenues. That's one. That's more for the advanced part of things. In the very short term, I would like to invite anyone listening to this, either live or later, to try out the deployment of this technology on the testnet. So as I mentioned earlier, we would fairly soon publicize this technology on our testnet, West End to be specific about it. So West End Relay Chain also has a West End Asset Hub parachain, and this would be public on West End Asset Hub pretty soon. So for those who are thinkers and are already sort of like interested in Polkadot and want to try smart contracts for the first time, trying this out and giving feedback and providing us with the potential bugs and shortcomings is extremely valuable in the short term. This is the second message. And finally, the third one, and this is more like a holistic message, is that, again, for the first time, we can program Polkadot with smart contracts. And I think this analogy I said earlier is very interesting and delivers the message well. Smart contracts are like, the car, the day-to-day vehicle that you can use to get to most of the destinations that you want. And if you want to go to a destination that is very, very far and complicated to reach, then you use the rocket ship, and that's the parachain product. So going forward, we do our best as within Parity, within the Polkadot ecosystem, to enlighten engineers and tinkerers that you should consider developing a smart contract as your first option and not build the parachain as your first option. Because building a parachain is building the rocket ship or driving the rocket ship, however you want to call it. It's the more complicated thing to do. And for a tinkerer, for a small team, for a business that just wants to get started, using smart contracts is a much more economical and generally a better business decision in most cases. So to summarize, we should strive to educate our ecosystem, be it the existing developers or the new ones, about the existence of these two products and their unique use cases. And most use cases would likely be fulfillable by a smart contract in a much more cheaper and easier way. So foremost, we should sort of like emphasize on conveying that message, but also emphasize that we have the parachain product as well for the power users, for those who want extra throughput, for those who want some kind of extra control over the system that is just not possible on a shared smart contract environment. So this is the third overall message I have.
Yeah, I think that's also a great wrap up for your part as well. So and I know that you have an upcoming call soon. So but yeah, thank you for like coming to the community call and spending time sharing with us like all the status of like the Polkadot Hub Plaza and what also like the reparation that the developers should care about as well. And yeah, thank you, Kian. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you for having me again. I will drop out then. I hope you have a good rest of sort of your community call. Yeah, for the second time, I really enjoyed being here. We can maybe repeat this again in 6 months, in 1 year, with like further. Hopefully, I can come here and speak to more items in that Polkadot roadmap that you showed being checked as green and done, and share ideas with the community. Also, as mentioned, I would share with maybe the sort of the admins and moderators here this upcoming testing release of smart contracts on Westend, so you can also share it in the OpenGuild community, and hopefully we can have a good cross collaboration with the main Polkadot Discord server, and try these new technologies out together, and push them toward perfection. So thank you very much, and have a good day.
Thank you. Okay, guys. We're not done yet. So I hope from Kian section you already learn about Plaza, learn about all the status of what we're having right now with the Plaza, and we feel don't forget to check out our videos from for the Open Polkadot Bootcamp, and that's very helpful to you with all the knowledge, all the necessary knowledge for the hackathon, but it's also for the future development of Polkadot as well. And please go to OpenGuild Discord. If you have any questions about the Western deployment, feel free to leave the message here. Have any question about the Polkadot SDK and also the Plaza, feel free to leave the message. And yeah, thank you. I'm gonna give the mic back to Pia.
Thanks, Tin. So I think we will wrapping up our today's community call as well. So thank you, Tin, and Kian as well. To our listener, we are thrilled to have had you with us today, and we look forward to bringing you more exciting talks in the future calls. So feel free to continue sharing your thoughts in our community channels. So we will see you on our next call. Bye, everyone.